Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Who's ready for some fighting words? This video, I want to talk about the fight that took place over the weekend with George Kambosos versus Devin Haney. And listen, I'm going to change his name from Devin the Dream Haney to Devin Living the Dream. Okay, Devin is living the dream. I mean, what more can I say? The man went over there, like I said, he was facing so much. He had a lot against him. He had a whole country against him. I believe he had judges against him, and I said if he wasn't going to knock him down, he was going to have to win undoubtedly. Like there was nothing to dispute or doubt if he was not going to knock him down. I knew he wasn't going to knock him out. Devin's not that type of guy. But nonetheless, I knew he would pick some spots where he would, overwhelmingly show his skill level over George Kambosos. Again, I got to give a shout out to Bill Haney. I'm sorry, I just love seeing families. I love seeing fathers and sons sticking together, especially in this sport. If I don't know how many you go back, but you go back in time, like the 90s, and all the father and son boxing teams were always arguing and disputing each other and taking each other to court, arguing in the corners. And you have a father and son right here where they're getting along and they mean so much to each other that I personally believe Devin Haney won. I believe he would have won either way, but with having his father present made the win not only bigger, but it made it easier for him. Just having his father's presence made it easier for him. Just knowing that his father's with him, just knowing that his father was willing to go through the storm with him, made it easier for him. Just knowing what his father had to physically get through to get to that country, make it into the country, said a lot for Devin. And I think it proved itself when he was fighting. His comfort level, he was comfortable because his father was with him. Yeah, he might know the other guys, but that's his dad. And I said it before. Yeah, if he was going to come to a point where he was going to need a pep talk, whom better to give it to him than his dad? But who was going to give it to him if his dad wasn't there? Yeah, a guy can say whatever he wants to say, but he's not the one who raised you. And look, he's not the one who raised you. And just having his dad there was motivation. It was hope. It was strength that he probably didn't even know that he needed. And it was encouragement. And honestly, this is just my personal opinion. I don't believe anybody would have beat Devin in Australia on Sunday. I really don't. I don't believe anybody would have beaten him. I don't believe anybody would have beaten him. That's just how much his dad meant. That's just how much the presence of the father meant to the son. Nobody was going to touch him on that day. And I think he did an amazing job. It's amazing how a lot of people are giving him slack. Oh, you had a lot of fighters like, oh, this is boring and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, you can say whatever you want. He's winning, and he's winning undoubtedly, unquestionably. Okay? And sometimes you got to play it safe. And there's no other situation where you have to play it even more safe than Devin's situation. You're in another man's country with a crowd. Every time George Kambosos even looks at Devin, they scream. So, when you're dealing with judges, that makes them think that George Kambosos is doing things that he really isn't doing, or that he's doing more to the effect than what he's really doing. And it plays on the judges. But on top of that, can you really trust the judges? We've seen some wild decisions, this year alone. We've seen some crazy decisions. So yeah, sometimes you just want to play it safe. Listen, if Devin Haney was in Vegas, that'd be one thing. He'd feel a lot more comfortable. He would feel a whole lot more comfortable. Or if they were just in some neutral place, let's just say they went to, the UK. Let's just say that they went to like Liverpool and they fought. It's neutral, yeah, he's probably going to have a closer crowd nearby, but it's still neutral. It's not exactly his home. Okay, it's not my home, but it's not yours either. It's neutral. So people can say whatever they want. They can say that, it's a boring fight, but sometimes you have to have a boring fight. Sometimes just to be safe. And you can call it whatever you like, but he won. He won undoubtedly, unquestionably, and he is an undisputed champion of the world. So it's amazing how many people are quick to pull him down and quick to shut him down and, oh, this is boring and this is it. I actually saw a lot of tweets from female fighters saying, oh, they maybe the men should do 10 rounds in 2 minutes because this is boring. And it's just like, you need to focus on making your side of the sport more exciting as opposed to trying to knock him. That's what you need to do. And you can say whatever you like. Number one, you're not a undisputed champion. And number two, you're not fighting on a platform as big as this as of yet. So pump your brakes before you talk. Let's just give him the props that he deserves. Devin Haney, I think you did an amazing job. Devin Haney, I'm happy to call you the undisputed champ of the world. Because even I said, listen, until you beat this man, or you beat anybody legitimate, you are a paper champ. I even said that. I admitted, listen, I openly admit, I said he got his belt emailed to him, and he did. And he did. But he also proved that he deserved it. Why? Because he proved it by becoming the undisputed champion. He took the belts off the man who beat the man who beat the man. That makes you the guy. Okay? Now we got to talk about George. This promotion really showed a lot of his personality. I actually like George. He's a little, what George reminds me of? He reminds me of like a villain in a James Bond movie. Like, he sounds so orchestrated and calculated, and he speaks really poetically at times. So it's kind of funny just to hear him speak. But even when he said, like when he missed the weight on the scales and he's like, it's the art of deception. And I'm like, what are you deceiving? Because Devin came out and said, you're not even a real champ. You didn't even make weight. So what exactly what's the deception in that? Are you trying to give Devin extra confidence? Because if you are, mission accomplished. I really don't know what you're trying to achieve here. So when he said that he's trying to deceive him, or the art of deception, I'm like, well, what would that be deceiving? That you're not professional? That now he has even less respect for you? What exactly are you deceiving? So in a weird way, I'm thinking, because like I said, the way George talks, I wouldn't be surprised at this point if you were to say, I lost on purpose so that I could build up the second fight. Listen, stranger things have happened in this sport. I mean, I suppose you could say that. You made $10 million. So maybe in the rematch, you'll get $20 million? Maybe. Possibly. I don't know, I guess. But I don't necessarily think that builds up the fight even more. I think building up the fight would be Devin saying, you know what, this time I'm going to knock him out. I think that builds up the fight because now it gives the fight that a lot of people wanted to see. Normally when you have a guy who's as accomplished as George was prior to Devin taking his belts, typically I'm always under the impression you need to beat the champion, like beat him up. Either take him out or beat him up in order for you to get those belts, if it's going to go to a decision. And listen, that's what Devin Haney did. He shut him out. He threw a lot of jabs, but he shut him out. And kudos to him. Now let's jump into that rematch. What changes could be made in the rematch? Well, for one, I think George could be first instead of waiting for Devin to do something first. That's I know it's going to be a big thing for him. Listen, if you're a counterpuncher and that's not normally what you do, it's going to be a thing for you. But George needs to be first. I don't understand why George wasn't first. I don't understand why George didn't throw more punches. I don't understand why George wasn't more aggressive. I think he could have made the fight into what would have put him in his comfort zone, but he didn't do it. And I really don't understand why he didn't do it. And, I knew Devin would control the pace. And what did I say, people? What did I say here on Fighting Words? Whoever controls this pace and whoever's controlling the amount of punches being thrown is going to win the fight. And that's exactly what happened. Devin controlled the pace. I don't understand why George didn't change it, but Devin controlled the pace. And unfortunately, since Devin controlled the pace, Devin won the fight. Devin controlled how many punches were thrown. And because Devin controlled how many punches were thrown, Devin won the fight. You know, I knew this was going to be about the pace and the volume. And sure enough, it was about the pace and the volume. Now, that being said, what can be done? Like I just said, in a rematch, George Kambosos, you're going to have to be first. Period. You're going to have to be first. You're going to have to step out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to be first. And you're going to have to be every bit of aggressive as you claim that you were going to be in the first fight. Because here's the thing when you're fighting. You can say, well, the other guy didn't want to fight. Okay, but you're on the other end of the ring, the other side of the ring. If he doesn't want to fight, guess what? It's within your ability to make him fight. What are you talking about, dude? It's within your ability to make him fight. Make him fight. Put him in an uncomfortable position. Put him in a corner. Put him on the ropes. Put him on the back foot. Make him fight. Throw a lot of punches. Do a high guard. Walk him down. Do something. Don't just sit there. And that's another thing. You know, when I was looking at the fight, George was so stationary. And I'm like, why are you stationary? You typically don't fight like this. Why are you so stationary? He wouldn't move. Devin didn't move, so he didn't move. And he would just wait for Devin to jab him and then try to counter the jab. And I'm like, dude, that is not going to win you this fight. I get it, you're at home, and maybe overall you would think you would get the decision, but it's not going to win you the fight. And it didn't. It didn't win you the fight. I really don't understand why he didn't move more. George Kambosos has great legs for moving around the ring, and I do not understand why he didn't do it more, or at all, I'm sorry, and why he was almost in awe at times, just staring at Devin, even when Devin didn't do anything. He was just staring at him. And kudos and shout outs to Devin Haney for all those feints, because it got George to a point where he didn't do anything. He would just sit and wait for it. And I'm like, dude, why are you waiting? Why are you waiting? Why are you jumping on everything? Why are you waiting? Let's just say if he is doing all these feints, react to the feint, but fully commit to your reaction. Again, you can bring him into your world. He brought you in. Devin not only brought you into his world, George, he flew you first class into his world, into Haneyland. He flew you into Haneyland, literally. And you stayed there. You stayed at a nice resort while you were there, but you stayed there the entire time. And it cost you. It cost you a lot. Because now, like I said in my video prior, I said, now, there's the pros and cons to both of you guys. If Kambosos loses, it's going to look like you just got lucky on a night of when you fought Teofimo Lopez. If Devin loses, we're just going to say, well, we all knew you were a paper champ anyway. But it's going to hurt George more. Because if we're already looking at Devin like a paper champ, we're not really giving him a total amount of respect and credit, because he didn't earn it. He didn't fight for it. So he doesn't get that much respect. But you fought for it. And you bled for it. You got knocked down for it. You got back on your feet and you won those next 2 rounds for it. And then you lose in your next fight. So are you really as good as we thought you were? If you were to fight Teofimo Lopez again, would you win? I don't know. You were calling out Lomachenko. Do you really believe you can beat Lomachenko? Because you only held the belt for 1 fight. And you lost. So I don't know. But I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like you're a one-trick pony. It looks like you're just here today, gone tomorrow. It looks like you just got lucky on the night of. And it looks like if you were to fight Teofimo Lopez again, you might lose. And based on the last fight with you and Devin, it looks like if you two were to go head-to-head again, you'd probably lose. I think what he needs to do in terms of adjustments are easy adjustments. The question is, can he make those adjustments? And when he makes those adjustments, then what happens? Because I truly believe Devin will just make his on the fly. Devin made a lot of adjustments. He just adjusted very subtly. So it didn't look like his game plan diverted, but it did. if you were watching and you were watching carefully. It did. But he just did it so subtly. And then George wasn't doing a whole lot on the other end. Again, Devin adjusted, but George didn't do enough for Devin to have to drastically adjust or just shift into something else, because George didn't present a big problem. I mean, honestly, if you're going to literally stand in front of a guy and just allow him to be first on you, you're not presenting a huge problem. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I will definitely do a fight breakdown, for the rematch. And George, he can sit there and he can soak and he can say, well, you didn't give me a real fight. And you can say all these things. George, you got punched in the face. That was a real fight. When you get punched in the face, that's a real fight, okay? And you got punched in the face repeatedly, okay? For 12 rounds, repeatedly. So that's a fight. You didn't get the fight you wanted, but quite frankly, I don't even know if you could have controlled or handled the fight that you wanted based on what I saw. Because it still doesn't mean you would have moved out of the way. Like, I really don't know. So overall, I'm happy for Devin Haney. I know he can't get too comfortable because he's going to have to go back over to Australia to defend that thing. So I know he can't get too comfortable, but at the same time, I am so happy for him. I'm so happy to see this boy turn into a man right in front of all of our eyes and capture his dream. And he took his dream by the horns. And you have to salute that, and you have to give him a kudos for that. This platform, this channel is not about downing one guy and praising another guy. It's about, as I've said it 1,000 times, and I'm sure I'll say it 1,000 times more, I believe in the words of Alexander the Great. When he was passing away, they said, who's going to be king? He said, here's my ring, give it to the strongest. Devin Haney was the strongest. So I salute Devin Haney. George Kambosos is going to have another opportunity to become the strongest. But at this moment, it's Devin Haney. And his new name, Devin Living the Dream